have the
the
tomatoes.
time as 6:30.
Fresh basil and the Gouda cheese.
So we'll call
all
this
over it.
work session of mayor and council for the city of Snellville, Georgia, Monday, July 9th, 2018 to order. First item is to review the regular business and public hearing. Meeting, got the invocation. Allison, is it Perlee?
Pearly, yeah, isn't that,
She's not a pastor.
That's right.
isn't that
Yeah.
correct,
Is that how
Roger?
you say
Pearly?
it? Pearly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have the pledge, the pledge.
The pledge.
The pledge to the flag. We've got 3 items under ceremonial matters. Chief, did you want to, oh, that's just a presentation of award. Do you want to do that presentation?
It won't take about 2 minutes.
Okay. And then the proclamation for the port safety. Roger, did you want to read that proclamation? And
Yeah, I'll be
present it?
reading that.
Okay. And then for Chris Johnson, Gretchen, did you want to read that one and present
That's
it?
fine, yeah, I can do that.
Alright, then we'll have the minutes. Under committee and department reports, we are gonna add on, if there's no objections, to have stat do their report. Kelly usually does it at the end of the month, but she's gonna be gone, and she just wanted to make sure she could thank everybody about 4th of July, before it was a month late.
It's gonna take all of Snellville away.
So then we'll have the millage rate. This will be our 3rd public hearing on the millage rate, so we'll open the floor to public comments. Once that's done, then we'll just need a vote or a motion on the millage rate. Under new business, oh no, I guess that first part is just the public hearing for comment. Then under new business, we'll call for the motion. And the rate is 4.588
Hasn't changed.
is what's been proposed. We have the second reading on the solid waste. Anybody have any questions?
Yes, I was reading it over and the wording was changed to not allow on the side of the house. It only says that it has to be behind the house or covered behind the house.
It can be in front of the house too, but it's in like a little compartment, basically.
Like what I do is I pull my trash can up and I put it beside my house.
Yeah,
So
that's fine. Side or rear.
So that's allowed.
Yeah.
Okay.
We did on the one that basically on the front of the house or like halfway down the driveway. Yeah, so if you got your garage on the side, you can still pull your trash can.
Does anybody have a copy of the summary?
Right here.
Because this part they got me. Forgot where and.
Should all be there.
Yeah, amendment
Attached.
requires the garbage carts, the recycling bins to be stored in rear yard, inside enclosed structures, or where they are otherwise not visible from the street.
Not visible.
Yeah. So not visible. You can see the side of my house from the street.
You can change it and put the side in if you want.
Yeah, I want to change that. How do I go, or what's the
So
legal
when,
stuff to that?
when we get to that item and I call for the vote or the motion, then you make the motion with your amendment.
Motion to allow beside the house?
Modify.
Motion to, yeah. We've got the ordinance in here. We can show you, you make a motion to approve with the following change. And let's find out where it is here.
Oh, geez, glasses again. Property insurance. Adult entertainment, okay, no.
Section 45 or 46.5 pre-collection practices. It's actually
40 what?
46-5.
Yeah, and it's line 4 and 5, 6, 4, 5, and 6 of that section.
Yeah, the garbage carts and recycling recycling bins shall then be stored or placed only in the rear yard, inside enclosed structures, or where they are otherwise not visible from the street.
Side, yeah, you just add side in rear yard and then.
Or placed in the side or rear
yard.
yard, I guess you could say, right?
You can just add side or rear.
I'll just add
yard.
side,
Yeah.
because it's, okay.
So you'll make the motion with that amendment, and then we'll move on. Was there anything else? And then item C, the collaborative infrastructure services.
Yeah, that was my mistake. That should not be on the agenda tonight. I'll send out an email going over all of the companies that I talked to and the different pricing. The collaborative had the lowest price, and they worked with us on the LCI very well, so I know they're very competent. But I will, I'll send out an email before the next meeting, and we'll take care of that. You'll have a little more work there. I apologize.
Yeah, I mean, what we're trying to do is we'll have things on a work session agenda before it go, you know, a meeting before it goes on our regular agenda for actual action. We'll try to do that as much as possible. With coming up, there may be some things with the town center, you know, things that might need to be on a quicker time frame. But I asked Butch if we have anything like that to go ahead and email out all the information that he had as soon as he knew it, so that we're not getting it all right in the agenda package.
Yeah, it was a
Right.
fire hose.
Yeah,
Okay.
Cool.
so if I can just get a motion to postpone that to July 23rd meeting. Okay? Did you have any correspondence to share?
No.
City attorney's report?
Just a couple things. We have, and I didn't talk to Jason about this ahead of time, but we have two nuisance issues. Jason's about to have a heart attack there. We have two nuisance issues, though, that we would like to get authority to move forward on. The first is 2028 Dogwood Road. And Jason, correct me, but we believe that the lady that lived there has passed away several years ago. The family isn't really interested in taking care of it. The backyard is out of control.
Yeah, somebody's cutting the front yard. It's that lot right behind Quick Trip. So next time you drive by, take a look.
I did, no, I did.
Pretty rugged, and we've been working that one for a few months, and normally you don't want to abate grass and weeds because it's a reoccurring expense. Once you start it, you gotta keep cutting it, but at this point, usually the demand letter will find the right owner.
And that's what we plan to do first, is we'll do a demand letter to the owners, which again, though, we believe it's probably owned outright, I think, at this point, but at least one of the parties that owned it is deceased, maybe both. So we've went ahead and are trying to track down the owners right now. But we'd like authority to go ahead and do that. And then also the other one is at 2752 West Main Street. That is the property on 78 if you're coming into town, just past the Gwinnett Clinic before you get to McDonald's. There is a house that sits back, probably about an acre back in the yard
Yeah,
there.
you guys know that big field house.
Oh,
The guy's
the old
brother-
one, is that it?
So,
The guy's brother.
his name is Mansour, is his name.
It's that house that sits way back?
Way back, yeah.
Yeah.
And the reason that I know.
Blue
that-
house or something with a red roof or something like
Yeah,
that?
and it was like an office business thing for a
Okay,
little while.
okay.
We probably get 50 complaints a year on that property.
But the house is also in bad shape too,
Yeah,
right?
it's
The house-
starting to deteriorate.
The difficulty is they've actually tried to cite the owner before,
We haven't got thrown out.
and Judge Lang has kicked him out because of the service issue. Mr. Mansour, and the reason I'm familiar with it is when the DOT started the condemnations for the left turns intersection, Mr. Mansour's was the first case that was filed. He still has not come to get his thousands of dollars out of the registry of the court. He lives overseas. His brother lives right down the road from me in Grayson, but evidently has no interest in intervening. So it will probably be a matter we'll have to publish notification at some point if nothing gets done. But we would like to, again, send a demand letter and then follow up with abatement.
I'd like to add one too that we've got cooking is that Chaparral Drive, the one where it's very similar to Dogwood, where I think the dad has passed away and there is going into an estate, and basically that none of the kids want it, so it's got a pool too. So there's a pool, the neighbors have been cutting the front yard, the backyard is overgrown, and there's the issue with the water, so I think it's 2655.
So what do you need from us, permission to
It's for each of them, permission for each of us to
Just
move
to do
forward,
the
to move forward with the nuisance
demand
action.
letter?
Well, it'd be, rather than having to come back again, if we could give the authority to go forward with nuisance abatement, but understanding that our first step would be just to get a demand letter. But then if that's not successful, move on to the next
So
step.
do we need a vote on this in the meeting?
No,
or
I see, just
permission?
permission
Okay.
from the.
I'm good with
Yeah, for
proceeding.
sure.
And Jason, do you think we need, periodically, we have to meet with Judge Lang to explain the amount of hours that our staff puts into these code enforcement cases? And it might be time to do that again.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll say this for Judge Lane, once it gets to the abatement process, he usually lays the hammer
Yeah,
down pretty good.
I think the
Yeah.
problem here is the notice problem. I don't think it was, I don't think it's Judge Lang giving us, on this particular one at least,
Okay.
giving us a problem. I think it was just that there was a notice issue. From what I was involved in, that's my understanding,
Yeah.
because he's out of the country.
On all of those, really, but once we get to abatement and it's a bank or something, and he's been pretty stern. Some of the other issues, we've been a little more, forgiving.
Very lenient.
We've tried to schedule with the new judge, and he's a little bit more stern, so
Okay.
it's been helpful too.
Okay. Is that it?
That's it for me.
Ongoing projects?
Let's go over some of these quickly. I know we've got some videos to see. Town center progress. I do need a short executive session just to give you an update on some real estate property issues. But I think Eric has sent out has given everybody a copy of the stakeholder and the charrette dates and times. Very important. Roger, for instance, was asking me the other day, he said he had some input for design, I think of the library or the market or both. This charrette would be a good time for everybody who has a comment like that or anything to attend and give us your comments. Give TSW your comments, because it's something you've got. There are 2 days there, and it's a good opportunity really to let them know what you think as they begin work on the design. So take a look at this and put it in your schedule, please.
One small emphasis to that, Butch. On Thursday afternoon, the last session, and on Friday afternoon, the last session are kind of wrap-up sessions. I would think-
August 2nd and
August 2nd and
August.
I would think you'd be particularly interested in the wrap-up section on the Friday, so I would put that up on your calendar a little bit.
For that presentation and discussion at the
Right,
end?
at the end, because that's where they will have kind of the compilation of all the ideas and thoughts they put together. And then on that same chord, but halfway through, they do that Thursday late afternoon too, if you at least want to get a check-in point to see everything they're processing.
And then on the stakeholder interviews for July 19th, are we going to be scheduled, or is there a,
That's just for your information. There is no reason that you need to participate in those at all.
okay,
They just wanted you to know they were going on.
okay,
If you do have a particular interest in dropping in on one of the sessions you see, maybe if you just take a big interest in the civil work that's gonna go on, you are welcome to drop by and listen, but there's no real need for you to do that
Okay.
unless you're just overwhelmingly interested and nothing else to do.
okay.
The time, really the best input time for all of you is during that charrette session like that Butch mentioned. And you're welcome to be there all of 2 days, or just during the last session, however your schedule allows.
But you talk to me about July 10th tomorrow. About talking
July 10th is just that's kind of the next item there in Market Library Progress. We're getting the parties together just to make sure all of the topics that need to be discussed are discussed. between potential developer and TSW. So the time really for input on design, this is much better. The charrette's a much better time. We aren't going to be getting into the weeds as far as design and features like that tomorrow. We're just going to make sure everybody is on board with the charrette schedule and everything moving forward. So
Just keep me informed of when the actual details start coming.
what's
Not
that?
so much the, but when the actual details start coming.
Yeah.
That's what I want to know about, not so much this.
Well, I'd say this is
The
the
charrette
start of
does.
the details.
Yeah, that's the start. That's
Yeah.
how they start putting together
Yeah.
those
Yeah,
ideas.
When
But
they
when it's
start,
actually going to the actual like drawing board and stuff, that's what I want to know.
Well, they are going to.
might be
drawing
late
the
then.
charrette.
I'd do that right here, really.
And they'll have a design team here that'll be working on it.
Yeah, I mean, the charrettes, if you've never done something like that, we did them in the 2010 or 11 vision update at the town center. I mean, it is, they'll do a little focus meeting or something, they'll get some input, they'll give a little presentation, they get input, and the designers are back there drawing stuff up. You know, we were talking about roads and changes to roads, and they were back there actually drawing things, so that by the end of the second day, they had some sketches of things. Now, how much of that actually wound up in the final plan, I couldn't tell you. But, I mean, so that's where the sausage starts getting made. So I would definitely get there towards the end of Friday, if anybody, you know, if you can make it, to hear what's going on, so that you can, because that's when things start solidifying and start moving along.
Yeah, that's a big part of the market library progress. Marketing, Snellville, Melissa and I had a chance to go to the farmer's market on Saturday. And, I mean, if you want to see a diverse group of people and democracy in action, go there, put a couple chairs in front of a table and start talking to people. It's great. And we got a lot of input, and Brian was out there, I guess, taking pictures and whatnot. So that's, and every department is going to be there. So that's it's a good way to get information out to folks. And I think during the comp planning process, I think Jacobs found out that was a good location also to get to seek input. I think July 23rd, the next meeting, it will not,
The 13th of August.
13th of August will be Purple Heart.
Purple Heart, we're getting representatives from Alpharetta and Lawrenceville, and the national coordinator for Purple Heart is coming as well. So
Okay.
Oh, awesome.
Cool.
That's when we'll be crowned a Purple Heart.
we will be officially, if we do the proclamation, and then we are officially
A Purple Heart.
a Purple Heart. And
We've got
I've already
signs ordered.
I've ordered the signs for the parking lot. I think we've got 2 of those, Butch, or just the one?
Just one parking
And
space.
then we
for-
have entry signs coming from the DOT as well, so we'll have.
Where we recognize our Purple Heart recipients. Town hall meetings, I had a lot of questions at the farmer's market from folks. When people ask questions about the intersection, and you explain to them how things are working and what's going, they walk away pretty satisfied. I don't know how many negative comments y'all have had, but they've been few and far between with me. There has been a question about the wall going up. I mean, it's going to be there, but in front of that wall, there will be a grass strip, what they call a beauty strip. There'll be a 5 or 6 foot sidewalk next to the wall, and there'll be a handrail along the wall. But that is it's a mandatory safety item that they have to have there. It's gonna be a 36-inch, I mean, it's 3 feet tall. And, so that is just,
Will that beauty strip be wide enough to plant anything besides grass?
no, I don't think it will.
They won't let you put trees.
The median, there will be several wide medians that we're working with them on.
Just something green besides concrete.
Oh, yeah. And there will not be any headless figures on the,
That was another question that I was
wanna
gonna
put
raise
bobbleheads on
about
top.
We need a
painting.
mural.
You want a mural?
Drive by and it goes,
The UDO, Jason and I have had a conversation. He's going to get back with TSW. Now that the comp plan has started and is at a point, they're getting to be at a point where it's time to coordinate the two closer together. So we're going to work on the document, the draft that we have now from TSW, and basically ask them to do a little more work so it ties in with the comp plan. So they are being pushed, and I hope, maybe not next time, but certainly the first meeting in August, there will be a better update on the UDO. Roundabout construction is going very well. Chief, I don't know if you've heard anything from the traveling public there. They seem to be, they're working outside the roadway for the most part. But I think there a lot of utility work going on, which is normal. And then we'll be talking about FARS and Ridgedale with a meeting with the Gwinnett DOT tomorrow. So I think everybody's happy with the progress so far. And we'll be talking about lighting as well as landscaping for the two roundabouts. 78 and 124. We've worked out the fencing that we've talked about for the ponds. We are still working on them with landscaping. I have the next progress meeting is July 18th. Do you have a different one? So we'll get an update at that time. There's a lot of work. You're starting to see the shape with the placement of the wall, with especially everything that's going on down in Clower. You can see the turn lane and how traffic will move easier around Clower. So you're starting to see a little bit of the shape of the project. Really not a report on business retention and attraction. The 2017 SPLOS program, revenue still remains slightly above budget. We have not had an occasion to use those funds yet. We'll talk about that a little bit in executive session. Higher education outreach, we have nothing but good news from both Georgia Gwinnett College and Gwinnett Tech. Eric, you want to give them a quick update on that?
Dave and I and a woman named Stephanie Brooks met over at the Garage Works earlier, I guess last week, and some good progress. They're going to look to be starting a GED class or 2 or 3 over there August 6th.
And Garage Works they'll have.
Mhm.
Okay.
That's basically gonna work.
First place we could find to have a place where they could put 20 people in a classroom table setting that we could offer them. So we're going to do some quick demolition and a little bit of cleanup, and then they're going to start there August 6th.
Cool. First day of school.
mhm.
Comp plan progress. I don't know if we have an update on how many people have taken the online survey.
I spoke with Megan and Jim on Saturday at the Target Plaza there,
Yeah.
and they were there doing outreach. They've closed the survey, but they got over 200
Okay.
survey results, and then that doesn't include the stuff they get
Right.
from the board.
And they were out at presidential last weekend,
They were
right?
at Presidential last weekend, and I was there with them for a while, but they said they were going over to the park, and I didn't see if they went over there. But I imagine the rain held off, so they had good weather.
Okay, good. Senior center utilization is complete with the policy adoption there. Ordinance development and tweaks and updates continue. The solid waste changes tonight. SDS negotiations, there really is, it's a continuing process. I guess we haven't heard anything from the county. They'll have to put a schedule together. Maybe they're so tied up with carrying the torch around.
Now, I think the thing that was coming up for like August is if no one says anything, it just carries over. And then there'll be some more things for the end of the year. I think we've got some staff people working on just really a couple of tweaks with some numbers with
Okay.
Gwinnett Municipal.
Long-term planning continues almost daily. There is a Snellville Days meeting, a review meeting Is that tomorrow night at 6?
Yes.
Tomorrow night at 6, so,
Tomorrow or Wednesday?
No, Wednesday.
Wednesday, that's right.
Wednesday.
Wednesday at 6. And that's all I have there.
And one other thing,
Cookout
talking
Wednesday.
about Gwinnett Municipal, what was it, House Bill, the big transportation thing that created the ATL?
985 maybe, 955?
Whatever, the ATL thing that got created, there is, there's gonna be a new authority that's gonna be regional, and they have to appoint members to those, to that board. And there's a whole big elaborate way to elect these members, that are gonna go on this board. And the mayors of the cities have, a fairly decent part of that election process. So I did get some information, Emery Mooresberger sent me, that was kind of the most complete that I've seen so far. It's still kind of all in the works. So I'll forward that to everybody. I just wanted you to know what it was. Gwinnett County is actually, they've divided up the Atlanta region in districts. And then they'll have representatives from that district on the board. And so you've got to figure out who your district representative is going to be. And then, so in Gwinnett County, Gwinnett County touches 4 different districts. There's 2 major ones, I think it's 6 and 7, and then there's other 2 smaller ones that we're a part of. So I'll send that information out to you so that you all know. Randy Meacham and I are talking about having Scott Haggerty, we think is going to be available, and we're going to do a special call Gwinnett Municipal Mayor and Managers meeting for August 1st to have him come out and kind of go through what he knows about the process so we can start getting everything lined up, at least for Gwinnett County representation. Okay, so I'll forward the information that I have just so you can read through it and kind of be up on what's going on. Okay. And then I have, as part of the last project, because this is with the town center stuff, I have a 10-minute video that was in one of the classes I went to for trends in urban planning. And this just really hit me with what we're doing with the town center. This video just goes through the 6 principles of creating an attractive city. So it was pretty easy to understand, and I thought it'd be great to share with council and then also with the public so that they can kind of see what we're doing.
Cities are a big deal. We pretty much all have to live in them. We should try hard to get them right. So few cities are nice. Very, very few out of many thousands are really beautiful. Embarrassingly, the more appealing ones tend to be old, which is weird because we're mostly much better at making things now. Cars, planes or phones. Why not then cities? It's crazy to settle for this and to leave something so important to chance. We need to get more scientific and identify the principles that determine how a city gets to be pretty or ugly. It's not a mystery why we like some cities so much better than others. This is a manifesto about how to make attractive cities. There are 6 fundamental things a city needs to get right. One of the things we really love in cities is order. Order means balance, symmetry and repetition. It means the same thing happening again and again, and the left side matching the right side. Order is one of the reasons so many people love Paris, but most cities are a complete mess. When it's a mess, it seems like no one's in charge, and that's worrying. It's horrible when everything is jumbled up. A pitched roof next to a flat roof, a stark geometrical box next to a muddled car park, high-rise towers that look as if they've been placed at random like teeth in a gaping mouth. We generally have an itch to straighten things out, and when we can't, it's frustrating. The same urge is there when we look at cities. Often, it's not skyscrapers we mind in the city, it's skyscrapers that have been dumped without planning, like they are increasingly in London, whereas New York or Chicago shows the ordered way that we love. However, you have to keep something else in mind. Excessive order can be just as much of a problem. Too much regularity can be soul-destroying. Too much order feels rigid and alien. It can be bleak, relentless, and harsh. So the ideal we're seeking is variety and order. This is the idea in a square in Telch in the Czech Republic, where every house is the same width and height, but within that ordered pattern, every house has been allowed freedom at the level of form and colour. Or in Java Island in Amsterdam, where the pattern is quite strict. Each house is the same height and width, the colour range is restricted, but within this grid, each unit is completely individual. We're perfectly in the middle between chaos and boringness here, and that's what humans adore. That's what more and more cities should have, order and variety. So as a general rule, too much mess and it's off-putting, but too much simple order and it's boring. What we crave is organised complexity, which you can see as much here as here. Now for the second thing that makes cities beautiful. They have to have visible life. There are streets that are dead and streets that are alive, and in general we crave the live ones. This is a live street in Hong Kong. This is a live scene in Venice. In the 18th century, the painter Canaletto specialised in pictures of cities everyone loved because they're full of life. There's always plenty going on. In this painting we can see a stonemason's yard. The work sheds are rough, but they're charming. It's fascinating to see what people are up to. How do they load those huge blocks onto the gondolas? The life of the city is on display, and we're primed to love this. Contrast this with the dead streets of many modern cities. Today, the places where a lot of the work gets done look dull and dead. They're spaced out along huge highways, and you never go there unless you happen to work there yourself, because there's nothing to see. And most office buildings are brutally anonymous. The people inside might be working on all sorts of fascinating stuff, but we just don't know, and it's disorienting and cold. The street levels are dead. Contrast this with the streets we all love, where you can see things going on, a bakery, a cobbler's shop, a market selling carpets, a burger bar, a bookshop. These are streets we love because they're full of life. More and more in modern cities, we've hidden life away. We have lots of dead sheds and dead towers connected up by dead motorways where you can barely glimpse your fellow humans. Rather than the old alleyways where you can see people at work, look at them in the eye as they walk down the road and feel connected to others. Modern planners have become obsessed by hiding technology rather than trying to make it nice to look at. Today we'd be outraged if we heard a huge pipeline was going to be slapped across a lovely river. We'd be up in arms, but we book trips to go and see the Roman Pont du Gard in southern France. That's because it's built for beauty and practicality. We think it's the pipe we hate. It's not. It's just the ugliness. So let's make sure our streets are full of life, full of people doing stuff you can see through the windows. That's what makes certain cities so attractive to walk along, that work is on show, that people are proud of what they're doing and are happy to let the world notice and appreciate the practical side of things. There's a third principle of good cities. They are compact. In the past, being able to be alone, or just with your partner or family, was at first a huge achievement. Only the largest class, the poor, lived huddled together, and it was horrid. As soon as people had money, they wanted to move out and have their own plots. Through the later decades of the 20th century, more and more people tucked themselves away in a private realm, and it's been a disaster. It's become deadly, cold, boring, and very, very wasteful on the environment. A compact city like Barcelona swallows a fraction of the energy of a sprawling one like Phoenix in Arizona. We've built a world of endless dead dormitory suburbs connected by sterile wide motorways, all because we labour under the false impression that we want to be far away from other people. But in fact it's wonderful to have the balancing, moderating influence of living close to other people in uplifting surroundings. That's why we need tightly packed, well-ordered cities with lots of squares and public places in which we can hang out. All the most beautiful compact cities have squares, yet the art of the square has gone into terrible decline. We keep promoting the invention of mobile phones, but no one's built a good square anywhere on this planet for decades. It's not rocket science though. Look at the Piazza Santa Maria in Trastevere in Rome. It's a public place, but intimate and enclosed enough to feel like an extension of your home. Lounging about here, having a coffee or a beer, reading a paper, you get to be around other people. Their moderating, cheering effect is restoring. It takes you away from the over-intense, couple-obsessed atmosphere of the home. There's an art to a good square. It should be neither too big nor too small. Anything over 30 metres in diameter starts to become too large, by which we mean the individual becomes overly small relative to the space around them, creating a sense of alienation and dislocation. In a good square, you should be able to see the face of a person across the square. You could, if need be, hail someone walking on the other side. The ideal square must offer a feeling of containment, but not claustrophobia. There's another principle of good cities to do with orientation and mystery. By definition, cities are huge, but the cities that a lot of people love also have lots of little back streets and small lanes where you can feel cozy and get a bit lost. We're drawn to the sense of mystery and enclosure that these streets offer. It's actually lovely to get a bit lost. A warren of alleyways can feel homely and intimate. At Cartagena in Colombia, the balconies nearly touch across the street. You can see your neighbours having breakfast. You know when they've gone to bed, what time the children do their homework on a Sunday evening. The fact that everyone's a little bit on display a lot of the time tends to make people nicer. They don't shout at each other quite so much. They put flowers on the table more often. We like it, but we forget that we do, and we don't quite know how to ask for it. Modern planners and developers give us maximum privacy because they suppose that's what we all want, and because they insist that cars and lorries, which like a lot more space than people, are the most important things in the world. Of course we need balance between small streets and big ones. Necessarily, cities are large. We love small streets, but they're a nightmare when you have to go any distance. So the ideal is to have big boulevards, grand, wide, straight places, and also little warrens of streets. We need cities that offer us two important pleasures, the pleasures of mystery and the pleasures of orientation. Let's think about scale now. Modern cities are all about big things. Joseph Campbell once wrote, if you want to see what a society really believes in, look at what the biggest buildings on the horizon are dedicated to. The biggest, most prominent things tell us about the actual rather than the admitted priorities of a society. We don't collectively say we worship sports shoe corporations, tax specialists, the oil industry and pharmaceuticals. Our cities, however, tell another story. They're full of enormous towers devoted to just these things. That is a bit depressing. As humans, we don't mind things being big per se. We don't mind being humbled, so long as the things we're bowing to deserve homage, like a beautiful mosque or a cathedral or a museum. But we've allowed our cities to be hijacked by aggressive commercial interests, by towers that honour not God or love or humanity, but pizza corporations and hedge funds. They exist because we've made a big, dumb collective mistake. We focused on who owns land, but we don't think about who owns space, who has air rights. And in the end, who has air rights determines what you can see from your window. We suggest that the ideal height for any city block is 5 stories high, no more. Above that, people start to feel small, insignificant, trivial. So we say, cut down those towers and pack everything into 5 stories. Make it dense, compact and tight, like they do in some parts of Berlin, Amsterdam, London and Paris, the bits we love. Of course, occasionally there can be a huge building, but let's keep it for something really special, something all of humanity can love. Towers have to be worthy of their prominence. They must be aligned with our best ambitions and long-term needs. Finally, make it local. Some things should be the same everywhere. We don't expect there to be a uniquely Venezuelan telephone or a distinctively Icelandic bicycle. But we don't want buildings to look the same everywhere. It's hugely disappointing when you fly somewhere for hours, land, and feel you could be anywhere. The problem isn't just that we'd like a bit of variation for its own sake. Because of climate, history and social traditions, each society really does have different needs, different strengths and weaknesses. There are many distinct styles of happiness, many good and varied ways of conducting collective life. The sameness of cities is a problem because it reveals how far each must be from engaging with the specific character of its own place. It's like wearing the same clothes in all climates, or speaking in exactly the same way, irrespective of who you're talking to. Cities need to have strong characters connected to the use of distinctive local materials and forms. The pale sandstone of Millbrae Crescent in Glasgow's south side is a local material, a medium-grained Carboniferous blonde sandstone formed when the Scottish landmass lay near the equator. Or around Cambridge, brick from the local yellowish Gould clay is a major traditional material. Or think of the way the great Australian architect Glenn Murcutt found ways to put up buildings that reflected the distinctive character of Australian life. So the law should be, don't make your city from buildings that could be just anywhere. Find a style of architecture that reflects what makes your location specific. The obstacles to building beautiful.
Thank you. That video goes on for just a few more minutes. But that's the important points.
Cool. It's good. With a British voice.
Get your eyes back. But that's on YouTube. If anybody wants to watch it again, just search
Send me an
for.
email, I'll send you a link.
Okay. There you go. Okay. So that ends our update on the ongoing projects. And next we have discussion on the City Hall Plaza improvements. This is something that Councilmember Bobby Howard had brought up in the past, and he had talked with Butch and I, so I just wanted to let everybody know. Bobby wanted to try to push this forward, so I thought I'd go ahead and just put it on the work session, let everybody know that he was interested in still having this project done. And the latest drawing was in your packet that he had shared with us. And I guess, Bobby, you had a video or something you wanted to show?
Can you throw that together real quick? It's about 20 seconds. Basically, did everybody get a copy of a color version? I think there's a colorized version that maybe makes a little more sense. And Norman, thank you very much for the time and the opportunity to kind of rebirth this again. You know, with everything with the town center and the excitement about that, I just think that, you know, from a timing perspective, I think this is a good timing thing to consider. And Brian, thank you. So Michael Kidd was one of the ones that helped us with the town green across the way, and also helped in the original design of this for. And if you're not certain where it is, it's just on the other side of the building here in the big open green space. It's just on the side of the building here. And if you look at the drawing, there's a lot of different elements to it, which includes, you know, stepping out of the community room onto a patio, having the opportunity to have a pavilion out there, to have a water feature, to do some things like that. Now, in the grand scheme of things, maybe the water feature isn't the best place done here. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. With everything you're doing on the town center, maybe that piece of it is better suited to be in a different location. But I think generally speaking, 90% of what you see here is viable for right next to where we are to increase, you know, the opportunity for visibility, number one, for the city, and make it a more inviting area, you know, for us to use. There's some conversation about, you know, the road being straightened. Well, anything that's across the road in this particular drawing obviously would be drawn back across this side if the road were straightened. This is not the end all, but this is a place to start. And with, you know, that in mind and the future in mind, I wanted to ask y'all's consideration of doing something in this spirit on this side of on the side of City Hall over here. So, but Michael Kidd is here. If y'all got a couple of questions, he's got a video. It's a pretty cool video, a kind of a 3D fly-through kind of thing that I think would be very exciting for folks to see. And I was just, you know, appreciative of the time to bring it forward and talk about it again. I think it's well worth the conversation. I hope y'all feel that way. And we'll just kind of see where it goes. Certainly, any questions or anything, I'm very excited about it, as I am about the town center. I think it's all going to intertwine very nicely.
Does it overheat? I don't know whether we're trying to turn it back on too fast, but it's not going to play. I've never had it do that before.
The projector's not coming back on.
This is my life as a teacher right now.
We'll just wait till public comment then. We'll do it there.
Can you just turn the turn the computer around and shut the lights, and we should be able to get something out of it.
Could I add just a couple comments while we're trying to get that up? Just so that everybody's not confused when they see this. I mean, this is something that was kind of very preliminary. After we did the town green, Bobby and I talked about doing an extension on this side of City Hall. We didn't go through a full design. This wasn't something that I was contracted by the city to do. This started as a quick kind of back and napkin sketch of an idea that might be interesting to have on this side of City Hall. After that initial sketch, it seemed like the project wasn't going to go anywhere because there were discussions about doing some other things with that space. I took it upon myself to develop what you're going to see now as more of a business development effort for my company. But, you know, this is really just a flashy piece to show what kind of exciting thing you might be able to do out there. It doesn't have to be this specifically, but it's just it's a quick little video.
The bounce house.
That's not permanent.
No,
So you can't sneak in at night and do it.
no. I was actually really focused on the restroom piece over here. That's a huge deal there. I think that would be
Yeah,
awesome.
public restrooms,
Yes.
definitely.
Well, I think we've kind of all thought that that was kind of where we would like to
Yeah.
head with the public restroom piece of it.
Mhm.
And basically, that's it's 6 restrooms, it's 3 men, 3 women over there on that side. But again,
Doesn't
all
have to be
preliminary, all of
3
this
men,
kind
3
of
women. Is that what you
out there
said?
so we can
Should
really kind
have
of
2
start
men's
talking about it.
and 4 women, because there's always a line, but actually, you know, the city of Duluth had a similar pattern with the restrooms and the outdoor piece on their town green. It was kind of interesting to see how well that was used. Yeah, very clean. Really liked it.
You know, I didn't realize it, but Lawrenceville has a huge restroom on, I guess it'd be the northeast side of the old courthouse.
Oh,
I didn't, somebody said, oh, those are restrooms.
Really?
Yeah, it's a good sized building.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and again,
like
you know,
Duluth.
with the compact space and everything, I think it's, you know, something that easily identifiable with, you know, the downtown.
I mean, I really like the idea of doing something over here. I think just timing is
yeah.
is crucial. And making sure that anything that we do here is melding in with
Everything
the
else.
plans that we've got going on everywhere, so.
It's a continuation.
And we have to
Something.
look at our stat events, because that area is used heavily for stat events.
Well, and part of that is,
Be-
you know, if you're gonna use, I mean, basically the area that you use the bouncy houses, then put bouncy houses in parking lots. People do it all the time, so you're gonna leave it like that for 3 events a year, not to do something like we're showing on the video, then, you know, so be it. But I think that is a good draw for the downtown. I think.
When that splash becomes another event in and of itself, really.
Sure. And again, maybe it's not, but I
Another
think the
attraction.
portico, the pavilion, I think the, you know, all the other elements play right into what's across the street.
Well, Michael, thank you for your work on this, and Bobby, thank you for keeping that before us. And do we have enough time for the exec session? We've got a short exec session that we're gonna do. During the work session of the mayor and city council of Snellville, Georgia, Mayor Pro Tem Bender announced that certain matters should be discussed in a closed session of the meeting and asked council